At the center of the chamber stood a human, alone, bound by luminescent shackles that hissed faintly as if alive. He knelt on the polished obsidian floor. He was not remarkable to look at, just a man of ordinary height, dressed in the gray fatigues of a captured soldier. His hair was short, dark, neatly kept despite his weeks in captivity. His lips curved in a faint smile, as if he were listening to some private joke no one else could hear. That smile unsettled more than a few onlookers, though they could not have said why. The announcer's voice boomed, filtered through translation arrays into dozens of tongues. Behold the human, primitive, fragile, reckless, a race that clings to stone weapons and superstition, daring to resist the empire. The crowd hissed, clicked, or trilled their scorn. Some laughed, a sound like snapping glass. The prisoner only tilted his head, smile unmoved. Then came Commander Zorth. He strode from the far end of the chamber with the swagger of a man who had never been denied anything in his life. His body gleamed under ceremonial armor scaled like obsidian, sharp ridges along his brow and jaw lending him an air of menace. His tail swayed lazily behind him, each thump against the floor echoing like a drumbeat. Zorth was beloved by the Empire not for wisdom, but for cruelty performed with flair. He understood that domination was theater, and today's act would be his finest. "Bring the feed closer," he barked, his forked tongue flicking between words. Holographic drones descended like silver insects, focusing lenses on the kneeling human. This, citizens of the Empire, is the last representative of a failed species. Watch and remember, resistance is answered with humiliation. He circled the prisoner slowly, claws scraping lightly against the floor as though savoring the tension. "Tell me, ape, why do you smile? Do you find pleasure in defeat?" The human looked up, his eyes steady, gray-blue with a calmness that cut through the commander's thunder. "I was just remembering something," he said in a voice even and mild. "My grandmother used to say the same thing you just did, about humility. She usually said it right before the turkey came out of the oven. Family tradition." The chamber rippled with confusion. The translators choked on turkey and oven. Delegates leaned toward each other, trilling in bafflement. "A warrior from the Thorn clans hissed, 'He mocks you.'" Zorth sneered, "You are insolent. That mouth of yours will be shut." He lifted a clawed hand, the camera zooming in. Across the galaxy, trillions watched. "You dare to smile in the face of the Empire? Then take this memory to your grave." His arm snapped forward. The sound of the slap cracked through the chamber like a whip. The human's head snapped to the side, his lips split, a bead of blood running down his chin. The crowd erupted in cruel laughter, their voices colliding into a cacophony of glee. The great showman Zorth had delivered the strike, and the humiliation was complete. But the human simply straightened his posture, twisted his neck slightly as if working out a kink, and looked back up with that same calm smile. "That," he said softly, his voice carrying with eerie clarity, "was a mistake. You've got about 5 seconds left." The laughter wavered. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably, though most still jeered. Zorth's jaw flexed, eyes narrowing. 5 seconds until what? Until your kind bows? Until your... His words ended there. The moment came like a glitch in reality. One instant Zorth stood tall, chest swelling with arrogance, his tongue flicking. The next, something red arced across the black floor in a wide spray, and his head thudded to the ground, eyes still blinking in disbelief. The body collapsed with a dull, armored crash, claws twitching in death. Gasps rippled through the gallery. The broadcast lenses whirred frantically, focusing on the severed head, the blood pooling fast across the flawless floor. No one had seen it. No one. The human had not moved. His shackles glowed, untouched. And yet the commander's corpse sprawled lifeless. His reign of spectacle ended in less than a breath. The chamber fell silent. Some alien dignitaries leaned back, mandibles clattering in fear. Others scrambled to their feet. A few warrior races hissed or screeched in primal unease, their instincts telling them that something unseen stalked the room. Across the galaxy, billions of viewers sat frozen before their screens, the laughter caught in their throats. The human tilted his head, as if disappointed. I told him 5 seconds. He should have listened. He licked the blood from his lip and smiled wider. But you know how it is, people never listen. The silence deepened into dread. The announcer, shaken, tried to salvage control. This is a trick. Illusion. Guards. But the guards did not move. Their eyes darted between the corpse and the prisoner, their scales shifting pale with fear. No soldier of the Empire had been trained for this, no manual written for it. The cameras remained fixed, broadcasting to trillions who would never forget what they were seeing. The prisoner stood slowly, the shackles humming as though they might resist. Instead, they flickered, shorted out, and dimmed, falling useless to the floor. He brushed the dust from his fatigues, then bowed slightly to the audience. I'm sorry for the mess. I know this was supposed to be entertainment, but now you've gone and made it personal. He stepped toward the fallen head, crouched, and picked it up by the horn ridges. Lifting it for all to see, he turned it toward the nearest camera. The wide, glassy eyes stared outward, blood trailing down his arm. This, he said calmly, isn't a declaration of war. This is a countdown. And it started the moment he laid a hand on me. Delegates whispered frantically. Some shouted that it was impossible, that no species could move unseen, strike with such precision. But others, those older, wiser, attuned to predator and prey, said nothing. Their instincts screamed the truth. They had just witnessed a hunter at work. In distant colonies, families pulled their young closer. Merchants shut down their stalls. Military officers replayed the feed frame by frame and found nothing. No movement, just the before and the after. It was as though death itself had paused the feed and edited the footage. The human placed the head gently on the commander's chest, almost respectful. Then he looked up into the camera again, his voice measured and kind. Tell your kings, your lords, your high councils. Tell them the countdown has begun. 5 seconds was for him. The rest, well, the rest is for all of you. The drones hovered uncertainly, lenses buzzing, and then the feed cut to black. For a heartbeat, the galaxy sat in silence, as though holding its breath. Then pandemonium erupted across every world. Some laughed nervously, calling it propaganda. Others shook in terror, whispering old words their ancestors once used for monsters in the dark. A word the galaxy had forgotten. Human. And in the chamber, the prisoner, no longer bound, no longer hiding, straightened his uniform and walked calmly toward the exit as the delegates shrank from his path. He smiled at each one as if greeting neighbors at a Sunday barbecue, as if none of this had been anything more than polite introduction. His footsteps echoed through the stunned silence, each one a reminder that 5 seconds was all it took to change the fate of empires. The Galactic Council chamber had not known silence for centuries, but silence filled it now. The recording of Commander Zortha's death looped on every hollow screen above the great circular table, playing back at half speed, at quarter speed, at frame-by-frame analysis. And every time it revealed the same thing, nothing. One moment Zorth stood tall, mocking. The next, his head was on the floor, his body twitching in the throes of death. No blur of motion, no flash of light, not even the hum of a concealed blade. Just absence, as if reality had skipped a beat. Delegates from across the galaxy filled the chamber, each species reacting with their own rhythms of unease. Some clattered mandibles nervously, some hummed in low frequencies. Some curled their tails around their legs like frightened hatchlings. The great banners of the Empire hung limp above them, their once proud crimson looking dull in the pale light. The council had gathered to calm the galaxy, but already panic had rooted itself far beyond the reach of speeches. High Chancellor Valon, a towering insectoid with sapphire carapace and glimmering wings folded tight against his back, tapped a claw against the table to bring order. His voice vibrated through multiple registers at once, translated for those without auditory range. We must be rational. A trick was performed. A deception, clever perhaps, but hardly supernatural. The human cannot have severed the commander's head without movement. That would be impossible. From the lower benches, An elder of the Merclans croaked in his slow, gravel tone. And yet impossible is what we saw. His eyes, clouded and ancient, blinked once. The galaxy laughs at the ape, but the ape stood, shackled, and the commander fell. You speak of illusion, Chancellor, but illusions do not make blood steam on the floor. Valon's mandibles twitched in irritation. The Empire will not bow to superstition. This was misdirection. A hidden blade, a remote disruption in the commander's armor, sabotage by enemies. The simplest explanation is always the correct one. But even as he spoke, doubt lingered. Delegates had replayed the footage in secret, not just here, but across thousands of worlds. Merchants huddled in market squares, soldiers gathered in mess halls, children whispered in schools. They all saw the same thing. Not misdirection, not trickery. The human had warned of 5 seconds, and 5 seconds later, death arrived. Across the chamber, Ambassador Krell of the Veari leaned forward. His species resembled tall serpents with crystalline scales, their eyes keen and cutting. Perhaps the Chancellor is correct. Perhaps it was sabotage. But consider this. The restraints remained active until they failed after the event. Even our most skilled infiltrators could not breach them. And more curious still, he smiled. No fear, no confusion, no struggle. He smiled as though it were all expected. A ripple passed through the delegates. That smile had haunted them all. Not the slap, not even the severed head, but the composure afterward. The human's calm bow, his soft voice promising a countdown. Predators smiled like that. To distract themselves from the chill creeping up their spines, the council demanded reports. Scholars and intelligence officers were summoned. Banks of holoscreens filled the chamber with endless feeds. Earth's cultural records, intercepted transmissions, fragments of entertainment archives smuggled before the embargo. For the first time, the galaxy attempted to study humans with seriousness rather than ridicule. They began with art. Images of paintings, films, music streamed past. An analysis drone paused on a motion picture humans called Die Hard. Delegates leaned forward, whispering as they watched one man dismantle an entire tower full of enemies. Is this a documentary? One asked. A training simulation? Another muttered. They are raised to improvise slaughter in enclosed spaces. The next feed showed professional wrestling. 2 immense humans threw each other across a ring, leaping from ropes, bodies colliding. The chamber filled with nervous murmurs. Their military rituals are bizarre, a scholar from the feathered systems declared. They train through performance combat, mixing deception with endurance. See how they pretend injury, then strike again. When an archivist played baseball footage, confusion deepened. They teach their young to strike projectiles traveling at lethal speed, muttered an officer. Why train reflexes like that unless they hunt in packs? Another noted the cheers of the crowd. They celebrate accuracy. They revere the strike. The feed shifted to a documentary on animals, and there it was, the honey badger. The creature tore into cobras, raided hives, shrugged off venom with insane persistence. Delegates recoiled in horror. This, one hissed, must be their totem, a sacred emblem. If such ferocity exists in their lesser beasts, what are the humans themselves? Laughter rose from some benches, brittle and too loud. Nervous laughter. You are being absurd, snapped Chancellor Valon. They are primitives. We crush their fleets in days. Their weapons are outdated, their worlds fractured. There, he faltered, mandibles clicking. Their smiles do not matter. But they did matter. In interrogation chambers across the Empire, other human prisoners had been tested. Some screamed, some resisted, but all, in their final hours, smiled. And sometimes they muttered strange things. One recording was played for the council. An alien officer shrieking at a restrained human, demanding to know Earth's battle plan. The human chuckled through broken teeth. Well, he said lightly, first we send the decoy barbecue party. You'll smell ribs before you hear the gunfire. The chamber reacted in confusion. What is ribs? Asked one delegate. Is it a weapon? Another whispered. They hide their plans in nonsense. Food and war intertwined. The recording ended with the officer's claws trembling, uncertain if he had been given mockery or prophecy. As more testimonies came, fear began to gnaw. Ships patrolling remote systems reported mysterious losses. Bases fell silent overnight. Commanders were found dead in their sleep, no signs of struggle. Rumors spread that shadows moved where humans walked, that once they smiled, death was near. Yet denial fought back. Coincidence, barked military leaders. Sabotage from rival empires. Humans could not do this alone. Denial was armor, fragile but necessary. If they admitted the truth, that a species once mocked as fragile had outmaneuvered them, then the galaxy's order unraveled. But the unraveling had already begun. In a mining colony on the rim, civilians rioted when a rumor spread that human operatives had infiltrated the workforce. Mothers dragged their children indoors. Fathers armed themselves with crude weapons. In markets, traders whispered that humans carried diseases of the mind, that their smiles infected courage with terror. Armies drilled harder, but unease lingered in every movement, in every backward glance. The council sought evidence, anything to restore control. Then came the leak. A shaky transmission flickered onto the holoscreens. Origin uncertain. Grainy footage showed a human task force walking calmly into a heavily fortified alien base. They carried duffel bags slung over their shoulders, as though arriving for a weekend retreat rather than war. The guards laughed, aimed weapons, shouted orders. The next frame showed the base in flames. No shots captured, no explosions recorded, just the before and the after. The humans were gone, the structure nothing but twisted metal. A single message scrawled in burning letters across the rubble. 5 seconds. Delegates recoiled. "This is forgery," cried some. "Propaganda." But others trembled silently, unable to look away. Forgeries did not burn buildings to ash. The council chamber descended into chaos. Some species demanded immediate extermination of all human prisoners. Others urged retreat. Others whispered of surrender. Fists slammed, wings buzzed, mandibles clattered. And through it all, the recording of Zortha's head played in endless loop, a reminder of arrogance met with inevitability. At last, Ambassador Krell of the Veari raised his crystalline hand. His voice, calm and deliberate, silenced the chamber. "You may call this sabotage, trickery, illusion. Call it what you will. But you forget the detail that matters most. He told us when it would happen. 5 seconds. Not a vague prophecy. Not random chance. He named the moment. And he was correct." His gaze swept the room. That is not trickery. That is confidence. The confidence of hunters. The silence that followed was deeper than the one before, because now it carried recognition. They had not witnessed a stunt. They had witnessed a warning. Far beyond the council chamber, in the hidden corners of the galaxy, human prisoners smiled in their cells, humming songs no alien could quite understand. Soldiers guarding them shifted uneasily, claws flexing, antennae twitching, tails lashing. The smiles were contagious, not of joy but of knowing. And while denial still clung like brittle ice, a crack had formed. Fear seeped in, slow but relentless. The Empire's might was vast, its fleets innumerable, its conquests legendary. But fear had always been the truest weapon of power. And now, for the first time, the galaxy feared humans. In the council chamber, the holoscreens shifted once more. Another transmission. This one clearer, deliberate, impossible to deny. A human unbound, standing before a camera, smiling as always. His words were calm, kind, yet carried the weight of inevitability. "We don't bluff," he said. 5 seconds was only the beginning. The feed cut to static. Delegates sat frozen. The denial cracked further, giving way to dread. They all felt it. The sense of something moving beneath the surface, something vast and patient, waiting for the right moment to strike. And for the first time in generations, the great Galactic Council realized that perhaps the galaxy did not belong to them at all. Perhaps it never had. The Council's debates had spiraled for days, but answers never came. They demanded explanations, begged their intelligence divisions for clarity, and sent fleets spiraling into the black to hunt what could not be found. Yet everywhere they looked, humans appeared, never in armies, never in visible strength, but in whispers and in consequences. Systems went dark. Supply lines ruptured. Commanders vanished. Fear gnawed at every polished edge of power. But denial had always been the shield of empires. They clung to it until the shield cracked in their own hands. It cracked in the form of a woman. She entered the council chamber not as a prisoner, not dragged in chains, but as a guest. A tall figure in a plain suit of dark fabric, her black hair tied neatly, her face calm and unreadable. Her eyes were pale, but they seemed to hold a weight that bent the room around her. She did not stride like Zorth had, flaunting arrogance. She simply walked, her footsteps light, as if she were moving across the kitchen floor of some small house instead of the polished obsidian of the galaxy's highest court. She carried a tray. On it sat a pot of steaming liquid and 2 cups. She placed it gently on the council table, steam curling like ghostly fingers into the still air. She poured herself a cup and raised it in polite greeting. "Coffee," she said, smiling faintly. "Would you like some?" The translation units faltered. "Coffee?" The word rippled across the chamber. Delegates exchanged glances. No one moved. She sipped unbothered. "Suit yourselves." High Chancellor Valon shifted in his seat, wings buzzing with unease. "Identify yourself." She set down the cup. "General Elena Morrow, Earth. I represent what remains of the United Human Forces." Though, she glanced upward at the holoscreens looping with Zortha's death. "You already know what we are." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The name meant little, but her composure meant everything. She was not shackled. She was not pleading. She was here by choice. Ambassador Krell, crystalline eyes sharp, leaned forward. "Why are you here?" "To give you a chance," she said simply. "We tried peace. We tried treaties. We tried silence. But your commander made a show of slapping one of ours. That was your error. You made us visible. And when humans are visible, things escalate." Her tone was polite, conversational, as though discussing weather. Yet every word pressed against the chamber walls like a storm building. Chancellor Valon's mandibles clicked. "You expect us to believe that you're kind, primitive, fractured, barely holding a single system, engineered this chaos? Ridiculous. You are saboteurs at best, opportunists. The Empire crushes civilizations older than your species without pause." Elena smiled faintly, as though she had been waiting for those words. "You think because we look fragile we are. You think because we laugh, we fear. But fragility is camouflage. Laughter is camouflage. We let you underestimate us. We wanted you to. Every empire that thought itself invincible has fallen into the same trap. They mistake our kindness for weakness, our chaos for disorganization. And when they finally realize it's too late." She reached into the pocket of her jacket and placed something on the table. A simple silver coin. It gleamed softly under the lights. Delegates stared. "A token," one muttered. Elena spun it with a flick of her finger. It whirred in place, balanced impossibly straight. "This coin has been in circulation for 200 years. It's meaningless except for the fact that we value symbols. We've learned to weaponize them. You saw Zorth fall. That wasn't a random act of violence. That was a symbol. The countdown has begun, and symbols spread faster than ships." The coin stilled. She picked it up again, tucking it away. "While you debate illusions, we act. While you analyze footage, we move. While you deny, we plan." The chamber bristled. A delegate from the Thorn clans slammed his clawed fist on the table. "Threats will not save your kind. Our fleets number in the millions. You have what? Ragged ships? Antique guns? You cannot face the galaxy." Her pale eyes turned to him. Calm, steady. "You've already lost." He recoiled, though she had not moved. Ambassador Krell spoke, his voice softer, more deliberate. "Explain." She folded her hands neatly on the table. "For decades we've been patient. We played the role you wanted us to play. Noisy, self-destructive, unremarkable. You let us slip into your markets, your archives, your networks. You laughed at our memes, our videos, our nonsense. While you mocked, we studied. Every trade you made, every weakness you ignored, every arrogance you leaned on, we mapped it. And now, while you think we fight a war, what we are doing is far worse. We are dismantling you. Delegates shifted in their seats, antennae twitching, scales paling. The words struck not like bombs, but like quiet blades slipped between ribs. She lifted her cup again, took another sip of coffee. How many fleets have you deployed since Zortha's death? How many warships have you scrambled to intimidate us? Hundreds? Thousands? And how many of them are receiving orders right now, unaware those orders were rewritten by humans months ago? A pause fell, heavy and choking. Your supply chains, she continued softly, no longer belong to you. Your banking nodes? Compromised. Your long-range communications? Intercepted. You think your soldiers are loyal to the Empire? Many of them now follow instructions written in a language you can't read. The galaxy has mistaken humanity for prey. You forgot, we come from predators. Her smile thinned, no warmth in it now. We don't fight wars. We hunt them. The chamber erupted. Voices shouted in panic, wings buzzed, tails lashed, mandibles clattered. Some screamed for immediate mobilization. Others begged for negotiation. The council's order crumbled. Through the chaos, Elena remained seated, sipping her coffee. Unbothered. Patient. The hollow screens above flickered suddenly, interrupting the uproar. A new feed cut in. An alien fleet in orbit around a desert world. Ships glittering like jewels against the stars. Delegates recognized the insignia of the Empire's Fourth Armada, a force strong enough to raise entire clusters. At first, the feed showed calm. Then the ships began to drift slowly, strangely, out of formation. Communications cut to static. Engines flared in bursts of confusion. Then, one by one, the massive warships turned their weapons inward. The chamber fell silent as the fleet tore itself apart. Cannons fired into friendly hulls. Beams sliced through allies. Explosions blossomed in the void. Chain reactions tearing through the armada. Within minutes, nothing remained but burning debris falling like meteors into the planet's atmosphere. The feed cut. No one spoke. Elena set down her cup gently. That, she said, wasn't sabotage. That was preparation. We knew your fleets would come. So we taught them, long ago, to answer to us instead of you. And when the countdown ends, every fleet will do the same. A whisper spread through the chamber, rippling like infection. They were already inside. High Chancellor Valon rose, his wings trembling, voice shrill. You expect us to surrender? To crawl beneath your kind? Never. Her gaze flicked to him, calm as ever. Surrender? No. Surrender assumes mercy. This isn't about mercy. It's about survival. You forgot the first rule of predators. We don't roar to warn prey. We smile, and then we kill. Delegates shrank back, the memory of that smile reflected in their minds, in their nightmares. Ambassador Krell alone leaned forward, his voice low, careful. And if the galaxy begs? If we plead for peace? Her eyes softened just slightly. Then maybe you'll get 5 seconds more. The chamber froze. Every delegate, every recorder, every nervous guard felt the weight of those words settle like iron chains. And then the hollow screens flickered again. This time not sabotage, not chaos, but deliberate broadcast. A human fleet decloaking in orbit around the galactic capital itself. Not thousands of ships, not even hundreds. Just dozens. Small, efficient, sleek. But their presence was enough. The council chamber plunged into terror. Guards scrambled, delegates screamed, orders blared through comms. But Elena only stood, straightening her jacket, calm as if preparing for a stroll. She looked up at the screens, then back at the council. You wanted war, she said softly. But what you're going to get is a lesson. The chamber had become a cage of fear. Delegates shrieked. Guards scrambled. Translators stuttered as the sight of human ships filled the sky above the galactic capital. Dozens only. Yet the image of them drifting silently in formation struck harder than 1,000 armadas. They did not roar in with banners blazing. They appeared as if they had always been there, patient hunters stepping out from behind a tree. The galaxy had expected spectacle, but what it saw instead was inevitability. General Elena Morrow stood in the center of the chaos, hands folded behind her back, coffee steam still curling faintly from the abandoned cup. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The galaxy bent its ear to her words now. "You see small numbers and you think safety," she said softly, her eyes sweeping across the rows of trembling delegates. "You think if you throw more ships at us, you'll win. You think in bulk. We think in precision. A predator doesn't need 10 claws to pierce the throat. One is enough." A delegate from the feathered system screeched, wings flaring. "You can't destroy us all. The Empire is endless." Elena's smile curved faintly. "Endless things collapse easiest. A billion moving parts, one thread pulled, and it all unravels." She gestured lightly toward the holoscreens. "Watch." The feed shifted to the capital's outer defense grid. Towers of silver and obsidian bristling with weapons. Shield arrays glowing like suns. The pride of the Empire, impregnable for centuries. And yet, as the humans approached, the shields did not flare. The towers did not fire. Instead, they rotated slowly, aiming inward. A hum built, trembling through the chamber floor as the defenses of the Empire turned upon themselves. Delegates screamed. Some tried to flee, pounding toward the exits. The doors sealed with a hiss. Elena didn't even glance at them. "Your fleets," she said evenly, "were never yours. We taught them patience. We wrote their new loyalties into the very veins of your machines. You thought us clumsy. You thought us primitive. You thought memes and sitcoms were trash, not Trojans." The chamber trembled as the capital's defense towers opened fire, slicing through the skies, blasting chunks of the city's own fortifications. Flames bloomed in the distance, faint but visible through the chamber's high glass walls. Elena's gaze turned to Chancellor Valon, whose wings buzzed frantically. "You said surrender assumes mercy. You're right. There will be no surrender. Not because we are cruel, but because you taught us mercy is weakness. We learned our lessons well." Valon pounded his claws against the table. "You dare lecture the Empire? You." His voice broke as the holoscreens changed again, this time to a dozen alien worlds. Worlds loyal to the Empire for generations. Now they burned. Supply depots collapsed in firestorms. Shipyards cracked apart, their scaffolds tumbling into orbit. Military academies filled with smoke. On every world, in every city, words scrawled in human script appeared painted across rubble or broadcast across hijack channels. 5 seconds. The phrase became a chant whispered among delegates, repeating helplessly, a mantra of dread. 5 seconds. 5 seconds. The countdown belonged to the humans now. Elena began to walk slowly around the chamber, her boots soft against the polished stone. She studied each delegate as if memorizing their faces. "For centuries, you called yourselves the apex of civilization. You mocked our fragility. You took our prisoners, our families, our children. You slapped them for sport. And now you see what it means when the mask slips." A warrior from the Thorn clans drew his blade, hand shaking, and leveled it toward her. "You are flesh. You bleed. You can be cut." Her eyes settled on him with quiet pity. "Try." He lunged across the table, a blur of steel and fury. But before the blade could fall, the warrior convulsed, his body locking mid-motion, eyes wide with terror. He collapsed in a heap, weapon clattering uselessly to the floor. His body twitched once, then lay still. Elena had not moved. She crouched beside the fallen warrior, studying him as though examining a curious insect. "That wasn't me," she said. "That was his own armor, rewritten long ago. You built your pride into every plate of metal, every circuit, every network. You never wondered why humans laughed when you paraded your weapons in front of us. You never asked what we saw when we smiled." Her words sank deep. Every guard in the room stared at their own armor now, their weapons, their comms, as though suddenly aware that every piece of equipment might already belong to someone else. Elena rose, her voice soft, her tone almost maternal. We are not gods. We are not demons. We are simply human. And that is enough to end you. The holoscreens shifted one final time. This broadcast was deliberate, orchestrated, intended not just for the Council, but for the entire galaxy. A human face filled the screens, the very prisoner who had once knelt before Zorth, the man who had smiled through the slap. He stood now in a quiet room, unshackled, calm, the severed head of the commander resting beside him like a trophy. His voice was low, polite. You watched me fall under your ridicule. You laughed when your champion struck me. You laughed for 4 seconds. On the 5th, the laughter ended. That is the rhythm of humanity. We let you laugh. We let you mock. We let you think yourselves immortal. And then, in the 5th second, we remind you. The image froze, the prisoner's calm eyes staring out into every home, every barracks, every market across the galaxy. Back in the chamber, silence returned. The only sound was the faint crackle of distant fires outside. Delegates bowed their heads, some trembling, some whispering old prayers, some simply broken. Denial had bled out of them. All that remained was comprehension. Chancellor Valon slumped in his chair, mandibles slack. What do you want? His voice cracked like old stone. Elena studied him, then the others. Her answer was not loud, but it carried through the chamber with the weight of inevitability. We want nothing. Wanting is weakness. We take what we decide. And what we've decided is that this galaxy has forgotten its place. Her gaze swept the room once more, settling on each delegate as though etching their fear into memory. Predators don't roar to warn prey. We don't announce conquest. We don't need to. We smile, and the galaxy understands. The glass walls of the chamber shuddered as explosions rippled closer. Flames painted the sky red. The human fleet outside remained still, engines dark, like wolves circling a herd already broken. Elena turned back toward the table, her eyes colder than the void. This was never a war. This was a lesson. A delegate whispered, voice trembling. And the lesson? Elena leaned forward slightly, her smile soft, polite, merciless. That 5 seconds is all you ever had. The chamber lights flickered. The holoscreens filled with static. Outside, the defenses collapsed fully, towers buckling, ships raining fire. Delegates screamed, guards dropped their weapons, and across the galaxy, billions watched as the Empire's capital began to fall. And in the final broadcast before the feed cut, humanity's voice carried through every channel, every frequency, every trembling heart. We are human, and the countdown is over.